We're so lucky to be joined today by Ben Coubrough. Thanks so much for carving out this interview time today, Ben.
Thanks for having me on, Rob. It's absolute pleasure and to be invited on your podcast.
Mate, I've been wanting to get you on for a long time, much before you won Coast to Kosci last year, but we're going to talk about that and lots more. Um, you have really had an amazing last 6 years in ultra running. I want to take you back further for the start of this interview. In an article you wrote, and I said to you before, you write beautifully. An article you wrote,
Yeah.
you mentioned two big influences in your life, and they are your father and your cousin Shane. And I'd love to hear what influences they've had on you, and from a mindset perspective, but just an overall perspective, if you could share that with us.
I'll start with my cousin Shane Mercer. Shane and his other two brothers as well, Lee and Ryan. We were cousins, but we were basically like brothers. And Shane was always like that older brother, and he was someone that always, and he did that with both his brothers as well. He's always tried to get more out of it, out of or each and every one of us. And he was very, very hard on us at times, but always came from that place of knowing that you had more in you and wanted more from you. And I think, I mean, Shane never, Shane always had to work for what he got, and he's been very successful. He's got a lovely, beautiful family, successful career, had a successful business in the fitness industry, and it was always something that and he was I loved my football. We all loved our football back then, and he was a good footballer, and it was always someone that I had the pleasure to play and train alongside with him as well. So he was always that person that just always wanted me to push harder and do more. And um he he was one of the inspirations that got me into the fitness industry as well, by having vision personal training at Blakehurst, and seeing he's like we played football together, and as you do back then, you're drinking and you're partying and stuff like around games, and I saw him do that shift to get more from his life and transfer and just get more healthier fitness. And that's something that drove me to do the same. So yeah, so I followed in those similar footsteps of always wanting to get better for myself and improve. And he always was that. It was always very hard on me, and but it always got more. I always then was able to get more for myself. So that was a big impact in my life as far as knowing that I could do more and be more.
That's amazing, and we'll get to your dad in a sec. But just to go on, Shane, because when you went into fitness training, what was your background before then?
In I was in sales, so I did a lot of sales. I worked with a couple of different brands, but I worked with Unilever, which is I looked after Lipton iced tea and Streets ice cream in the out of home market, and then I got into events. So I was doing event management, looking after venues, stadiums, music festivals. So it was a really good job, but I was probably working probably 360 days out of the 65 years, just because of the weekends were just packed with events during summer music festivals to the football season with rugby league and AFL, the AFL and all that sort of stuff. So I was, and just playing football and just drinking too much and late nights, that sort of stuff. So that was where my background was before, and then that was sort of led me like living my in Cronulla with my flatmates who always probably drank too much and wasn't really. I was always fairly eating okay, but not that healthy. But yeah, and just I still was training and going to the gym and running and stuff like. But it was just the weekends where it was just big blowouts.
Interesting to know that was Shane as the catalyst that you all must have known that you had more in you, or that you wanted to do and be more. And
Yeah,
so from there you went into personal training at Blakehurst
yeah, yeah,
and had a very successful time there. Can you tell us about that?
yeah. Well, yeah, that was yeah, building and just I mean, and I suppose that's where all the personal development sort of started. And Vision were really good with that, with their whole mentorship with the program. It wasn't just telling people to lift weights and get on the treadmill, etc. It was that whole changing your lifestyle and becoming better and changing habits and developing different routines and different structure. and they were very big on that personal development side by incentives to start reading more books, listening to more audios, personal care, and just changing and shifting that mindset with their development program with that. So, yeah, I started off just in training as a personal trainer. I was just basically establishing myself, getting clients, building rapport, building networking, and that sort of pushed me to do more networking and just just changing people's lives, and that was a big part of why I got into it as well, was just to improve myself, but also then to pass on that to others. And um, I started off with like helping a lot of clients lose a lot of weight because it was a lot of personal. It was a lot of changing lifestyles and becoming healthier. So it was like just helping people lose weight, but then that obviously then transforms into people getting more active. So then it started. I all of a sudden just found myself with a crew of like all these runners and triathletes, and they were, obviously I was running and I was doing triathlon. So then they all started to challenge themselves and do the same thing, and it just developed from there. And I was just and then I was just establishing myself within the community or the network of Vision, as far as mentoring a lot of other trainers coming through. I was doing these you used to get measured sort of on, as far as KPIs, how many hours you were actually on the floor training people, and that was where I was sort of in the top 10 of Vision, over the entire network of managing like sort of 40 hours on the floor. And so you've obviously 40 hours on the floor, or sometimes 50 hours on the floor, but then you've got time where you're spending another 5 hours a week on your personal development, then you're networking as well. So it sort of helped me get a structure and plan out my week, my day, so everything was productive. And so so then I was very fortunate to be awarded as personal trainer of the year, and personal trainer of New South Wales and nationally as well. So came with all that hard work, sort of was recognised within the network of Vision, and it's that probably in that part of my life from would have been 2010 to 2016 really shaped my life to where I am now. Then that's I can't thank everybody that was involved in that period, from Shane, from the other trainers at Vision, and also my clients that just helped me lift myself.
Such a great story, mate. Like how you got yourself into that personal development and bettering yourself through the vehicle of personal training, which will help
Mm.
others as well. It's really inspirational to hear
Mm.
that shift, and congratulations on winning
Mm.
those awards. And we'll
Yeah.
talk about your work ethic later, because I've learned a bit more about you and how strong that is in you. Um, so Shane was a big influence. Can you talk about the influence your dad has had on you through those years, and probably before as well?
Yeah. So I mean, my dad and I have always been close, and he we're very similar. We used to probably bump heads a lot because we were both very stubborn, and both just always just but he was always that person that did anything for anybody, always went out of his way, he never caused a fuss. And he still does that now, even though after suffering a few strokes, which in when I was at the gym, we were doing a charity event called Train the Trainer, where the clients used to dress us up and make us do ridiculous things. And he was there just spectating, and collapsed on the ground and had a minor heart attack. Oh, minor stroke. So then we went to hospital. The hospital sent him home. They said he just, because he had pneumonia the week before or 2 weeks before and was recovering. So they said, oh, he's just tired. He's just still trying to get over the pneumonia. So they sent him home anyway. I went and saw him that was on the Saturday. So I went and saw him on the Sunday, and he had all the signs for a stroke. Was tired, sort of just mumbling his words, a bit delirious. So we sent him back to the hospital. Again, they sent him home. And then we went to the doctors on the Monday. The GP sent him to the hospital. And again, they sent him home. And then on the Monday night, he had a major stroke. So I suppose it's negligence from the hospital, considering he sent him there 4 times. And so eventually on the Monday night, he had a stroke, and then was basically a vegetable for a good 6 months or so, and in hospital, and then had to go through the whole rehab and spent, and he had a partner at the time. My mum and dad had separated maybe about 2 years before that, I think. And yeah, so he had a partner, but that was a lot for her to take on. And so she left, which is fair enough. It's a big undertaking to look after someone from a stroke, and she did her best and was there for a while. But I think she tried to do everything for him, and then didn't let her life get back to normal. She was all about him, which was beautiful of her. But obviously, that takes its toll on your own self. So then I was looking after my dad. I had to basically step up and look after my dad through that period, and got him walking, keep pushing, and I suppose what Shane was doing to me, I was doing to my dad, and just like he said, like he wouldn't be able to push himself through a doorway or something like that. So we'll try again, keep trying, and um, I'd make his lunch and make his dinner and get his all breakfast. So I'd basically come home like on a Monday. Used to spend like 3 hours prepping all his meals and all that sort of stuff, and then yeah, he was said, "Oh, I can't do this, can't do that," but it was just the whole thing of, well, try and keep trying, and eventually, yeah, he was able to walk 100 meters. We did a little fun run together down at Brighton, the beachside dash, I think it was. So we pushed him on the wheelchair and then got him to walk the last 100 meters. So yeah, so it's just, but again, he just keeps pushing and keeps striving, and nothing ever beats him down. He just keeps getting up, and I think that's the inspiration of how I want to be viewed as well. And um, yeah, just I think he's had four other strokes since as well. So he's now at the point where he's full time care. He's in a wheelchair permanently now. Can just now needs assistance to sort of get in and out of bed, in and out of the chair and stuff like that. But that doesn't stop him. He's just always got that positive attitude. And like there's so many stories where he's got locked in a disabled toilet for 3 hours and and then but doesn't call anyone. Doesn't you'll find you'll speak to him 2 days later and he'll bring it up and you go, why didn't you tell us that? And or he'll be stuck in Darling Harbour in the rain because his wheelchair's broken down. And then just sits there, waits for someone to come and pick like the mechanics to come and fix it and whatever. So he's just doesn't ever want to put anyone out, which is frustrating because he's going through such hard times. But he's just a fighter, and just always, always just keeps moving. He just keeps going forward, and he's had to learn to move his arms all different times from being paralyzed. So he's work on his speech therapy every day, and he's had so many setbacks, so he's had to sort of teach himself how to say words again, and because he's had the stroke in the same area 4 times now, or for more than that, there's only so many pathways that can be kept being rebuilt. So he's sort of he's just been affected worse or more so as the time's gone on.
Must be incredibly hard for you to watch and also
Yeah.
incredibly inspiring for you to see how he deals with it. And like you said, the no complaining and the getting on with it, keeping a positive attitude. You,
It's hard being in Newcastle now and him being still in Sydney. And um, for a while, like when I was looking after him, I was engaged. This is much of my ex-wife. I was engaged at the time, and then she hated Sydney and wanted to move to Newcastle. So that was, and I think that probably was a bit of a toll on the previous relationship. With just that I was still in Sydney Monday to Friday, and used to drive up to Newcastle on a Saturday morning after work, and come back on the early hours on the Monday morning for like a good year and a half or so, while I was still trying to look after my dad, and then was eventually found a home in Newtown, and then he had nurses and that to sort of look after him. But so I think that's was always easier when I was around more frequently and able to see him a lot more. But obviously, since last sort of 6 years being up in, or 8 years now being up in Newcastle, it is harder being away from him. But I mean, with technology, it is good, and he still can use his phone and FaceTime and video call and stuff like that. But and it's just it is hard now being that 2 to 3 hour drive away.
yeah, you have established yourself in Newcastle now, and your business now is called Stroke No Limits Coaching. can you share the connection with your father there and how that came about?
Yeah, so back when I was at Vision and when my dad had the stroke, and his stroke, and stroke being obviously a stroke, but then there are no limits as far as just the only limits are the ones you set yourself. And that's part of the name of the coaching business was things, yeah, you might be affected by things, but it's your own limitations are the one you set yourself. So having no limits to just keep pushing yourself and striving, and it's with my 3Ds, I suppose what I call is desire, determination, discipline. So yeah, you got a desire for something, then you have to be determined to do that. But then also you have to have the discipline to put those other two pieces together. And that's sort of how Stroke No Limits was more of a like I did for charity and stuff like that back in the day, which was yeah doing different triathlons and different fun runs and stuff like that, raising money for the Do It for Stroke Foundation, which I think is this month. It's coming, so yeah, I'll probably do something for that as well. But yeah, that's where the name came from, so to speak.
Gotcha. I'd like
Mm,
to touch on one of those challenges you did, but before then,
mm,
a quote from another article you wrote touches on your 3Ds: a personal
mm,
attitude, desire, determination, and discipline. This sums up my approach to my own training and coaching with a strong sense of accountability. Knowing I've set myself different challenges to achieve gets me out the door each morning and helps sets high standards for my athletes. Can you talk to that a dual role that you play as coach and athlete? You touched on it before with Vision, how you were probably unknowingly such an inspiration to to your clients. But can you talk to how that kind of plays out for you now?
yeah, well, I suppose it's like with my coaching, and then I suppose you don't if you're not going to do it, then you don't expect others to do it either. So, and I suppose, and I am self-coached. Like I've had different advisors and over the years, and I speak to different people to get opinions and advice on different structures, etc. But yeah, with my coaching, the way I set the weeks out and set the plan, so to for whatever block or whatever build, I look at it and go, what would I do? And if I wouldn't do it, then why would I prescribe that and that sort of stuff? And that's same as, but that also pushes me to get up each day and to be at every session. Because yeah, it is hard. It's a busy lifestyle, coaching and working full time, and then trying to be an athlete as well. So it's a balance. But I think all those years at Vision has worked in my favor as far as being able to stick to a schedule, routine, being planned, and having that discipline. And I think that's if I know that I know my clients, and even like I'd say like Fridays is my day off, so that's when I plan my longest run in for the week. And that's sort of, and there's time when I never really get a sleep in, so I'm really tired. But I think, well, and if I've got guys that are doing big races and like Coast to Kosci coming up or UTMB, etc., I know they're getting out of bed, and and when you speak to the clients, they're hungry, they've got a desire, they're chasing, and that's where you just fuel on. So it just makes it a lot easier to get out of bed and to push hard in the sessions. And if I'm struggling, then I just think about my clients and go, well, they're they're still working 40 to 60 hours a week. They're still managing a family, and I'm fairly lucky that I don't have little kids to have to worry about. And my understanding of my wife that is she's a very important person in her role and her job, and she's busy too. So um, I'm lucky to just have that flexibility to be able to fit in those hours and to be selfish in a way.
Well, you
But
call it selfish. I call it
yeah,
selfless. The way that
yeah,
you do
yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah. So, but it's I just use the fuel of the people that are around me to fuel my own mindset and my own discipline and my own determination to push the limits.
So good. Such a great
Mm,
strategy to use and to understand, to reframe how I'm busy or I'm
mm,
tired, and to use the hunger and desire of your clients.
mm.
Staying on mindset with your clients, what do you see? You don't have to talk about any specific ones, but what do
Mm.
you think are the major barriers that people have problems with in terms of mindset?
Well, their own belief, and um, I think some of the times when they want to, or if not so much, if when they're sort of if people sort of, I mean, it's about that hear, see, do. They hear about things they see, then they start seeing it more than they actually do it themselves. But a lot of people see a lot of people doing things, but they don't actually think of what they actually have to do it,
Mm.
and they may not be ready to do that. So, like, it's sort of sometimes you sort of have to try and slow people down by saying, "Well, oh, they say you do Coast to Kosci, for instance, or they see so many people doing 100 miles now, then they just go sign up for a 100 miler, but then they get 3 months out, excuse me, 3 months out, and they hardly done any work because they haven't set the pillars in place to work on their nutrition, work on their training, but that and their wife still wants them to be there 3 nights a week to the kids dancing or et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's a bit of the limitations where they don't actually think the bigger picture of what's actually needed to be involved to achieve something big and the sacrifices that you do need to not you make, but also those that are around you that are in your life to make as well. I think, yeah, I'd say that would probably be one of the biggest things.
Great example of, that's a really good example actually of setting up the structures and setting up the plan that'll support the attainment of the goal. Yeah. I
Yeah.
want to
I
take
mean,
you, yeah, sorry,
yeah,
go on,
sorry, go.
go,
No,
keep going.
no, I just think that I think I mean, there is, yeah, the whole belief in wanting and chasing something, but I think if you haven't quite thought about how you're going to get there, it's like even when if you like fall, like DNF in a race or something like that, you, a lot of the times you haven't actually practiced the things that'll go wrong and haven't thought about, yeah, things will go wrong, but haven't thought of what you're actually going to do in that circumstances when they actually come up and how you're going to get past them to be which is probably the other biggest barrier too.
Really wise. I'm leaning back to your three Ds: desire, determination, and discipline. You're talking about people having a desire, but then not having the discipline to put the plan together and to stick to it. And it's like this is how they all meld together rather than just having one D.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah,
Ben, I want to, before we start talking about your racing pedigree and what you've done in the last probably coming up to almost 10 years now, I want to touch on something else that I read from you, and that was a turning point in your life when you were in year seven, in year 12, sorry, in year seven as a 12-year-old. And you really talked about in this article how much it shaped you as a person. Could you talk about that experience and kind of how it helped you grow and evolve?
I think I was going through just a really rough time at school, getting bullied, and um, just had it was a sort of at a tipping point where I was sort of come home in tears, crying, going, just hating myself because of just the stress and the stuff that I've been dealing with at school constantly. But um, and just I think I'm trying to remember the article, but I think my mum basically said, well, what just was basically just said, well, deal with it. You're the one that you're the one that's in this situation. There's crying about it isn't going to help you anywhere. You just got to just just get over it and just push forward. And I can't. I'm trying to remember the exact words, but I can't. But it was pretty much. I think it was pretty much on the lines of that. It was just it's there's no one to blame but you, and just take accountability for it and just move forward. I think that was basically it. Yeah.
And was that something you'd never heard before, or it was a bit of an awakening for you?
Yeah, yeah, it was. It was just like, I suppose a bit of old school tough love. Just
Yeah.
um just just move on. Like I mean, you can't control it, you can't change it, you can't stop them from other kids or other people from their opinion or whatever they want to do or say. All you can do is just brush it off and move forward. So I think it was. Yeah, I don't know where it sort of come from, but it was just a big awakening
Yeah.
and that just a big shift.
And that has that kind of that stayed with you over the years? Has it helped you deal with other things, or
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just you develop that mindset of okay, well, if you and I suppose that's just with everything. Like if you can't, it's not about what can't you do. It's okay. Well, what can you do? And I suppose that's down with everything in life, but also if you're racing, okay, well, if I'm if I've got a, I don't know, like it broke. I had a bike crash a while ago, and it was right before. It was like I think it was 8 or 10 weeks from a race in New Zealand, and I had broke my collarbone and I couldn't. So I was swimming one handed. What I could do was I had a pool buoy in one hand and just nursing the shoulder, and was just working on my stroke with the other arm. I was just cycling on a spin bike and just running on a treadmill, just what I could do, I suppose. And that's sort of just an example of those sort of things that just will don't look at what you can't do, but look at what you can do and how to frame that.
Great example. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Mm.
Let's get to a few of these challenges that you've done over the years.
Mm.
Triathlon was a big part of your life coming out of when you were working at Vision. Lots of half Ironman and Ironman races as well. One particular challenge, a 24-hour Ironman, where you did four back-to-back half Ironman
Yeah,
distances in
yeah.
24 hours.
Mm.
Can you tell us about that challenge? It really is an extraordinary challenge. But yeah, can you tell us how it came about and how it played out?
Yeah, I think I was planning on doing an Ironman. It could have even been Busso, maybe, because I don't think I think it was December, but it just travel just didn't work out, and I had only pretty much just moved to Newcastle at that stage, and I was just thinking of just I think I know you watch YouTube things, and I was seeing like I think it was the Ironman Cowboy doing all these 50 back to backs and whatever, and then and just like the Norsemen, all these different little challenges and different events. And I'm like, well, I can't actually physically go to those places, or do I don't have the time to sort of to do 50 Ironmans back to back, etc. So it was just okay, well I've got 24 hours, and why not just push myself and just see what I can do. And then also with the Do It for Stroke Foundation was get that apart as well. So it was a good little thing to do for charity. I'd done a few smaller events around in when I was in living in Sydney and stuff like that as well for but weren't as big. But I thought something big, something that's going to get me, because I'd obviously done a lot of 70.3s. I'd done a fair few Ironmans at that stage. Well, why not just go that next step to make it even more harder?
And was the format swim, bike, run, swim, bike, run, swim, bike, run, swim, bike, run?
Yeah, yeah. So I did the swimming. The swimming was between Newcastle bars and Merriweather bars, and the rides were out towards just on the main freeway out to Madawi and back. I did the last ride was around town a little bit closer, because on the third ride at like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, the cars were fine. It was the trucks. The trucks just it was getting a bit dangerous. So that's why we did the last ride a little bit more locally, which was it made it hard because it was all on hills.
Yeah,
but
sure.
but yeah, so it was just basically 1.9K swim, 90K bike ride, and a 21.1K run, and
Awesome.
finished at Park Run. Yeah, so the idea was to started Friday morning and finish at Newcastle Park Run on the
Yeah.
8 o'clock the next morning. And I picked the hottest day on record in December, which was unfortunate. And I think it's still on record in December. So it's like it was 40, got to 43 or 42 degrees or something like
Wow. That's an extraordinary feat
that.
to do that, mate. Congratulations.
Mm.
That
Thank you.
seriously.
Yeah.
Another one of yours, which I followed, although you wouldn't have known it, I was the Great North Walk attempt,
Yeah.
um, the full 270 kilometers. Is that correct?
Yeah, 270, 268,
Yep.
something like that.
So for those who don't know, Great North Walk is actually a bushwalk, walking
Yeah.
trail between Newcastle and Sydney. And I don't underestimate the difficulty of the Great North Walk. It is one of the
Mm.
hardest um, trails in Australia. And you went after the fastest known time on that course.
Yeah.
And I I don't think I've ever been more disappointed. I
Yeah.
don't want to spoiler alert, but you were just smashing it. Can you tell us that story, how it came about, how well you were going, and then what happened at the end?
Well, yeah, I think it was just sort of out of COVID, I suppose. There was no races, and there was no sort of no events to do. And I think Birdie Bird had obviously done it before. and that inspiration from him doing it. And I think seeing Joe Ward, and Joe was actually really good. He spent a lot of time with me running through the course and going through logistics and crewing points and stuff like that. So it was really, really great to have Joe, someone that's done it before, to and many other events like that to fall back on. But yeah, it was just a um, basically, yeah, because there was no racing and no events, and just a big challenge. I'd only ever done a couple of hundred. I had at that stage I only done a couple of 100K races before, but I knew I trained very hard for it and got myself ready for it. So I knew it was in the yeah, and it was uh a few little setbacks on the day. Like we had a lot of rain going into the event, so my it was the whole day my feet were wet. But started off really well. We going through Newcastle Beach, it was going through like sort of hip deep water, which was made it a little bit harder. But yeah, but everything was going all right, and then I had a really good crew to help and support as well. But yeah, I think I even got the police involved at Brooklyn. So obviously you got to get the ferry across. We got to organise water support from Katonga over Brooklyn, and I think I had a window of between 6 and 6:30 in the morning to get there. So I ended up getting there on time. That's how I had police escort on the boat across the water, which was really good. And that's when actually Joe Ward jumped in and did some pacing for me. But yeah, everything was going pretty good. I only had it was quite hot, obviously being in November as well. Yeah, November. But yeah, my body was feeling all right. Legs were going well. Just at around that when I was pushing to get to Patonga, I noticed my I was getting some swelling on my foot, and I was wearing the old Salmon S Lab, the Ultra Glide, I think the Ultra Glide 2, which they had just first sort of started doing that sock design, and it was quite tight on my ankle, but I was planning on changing shoes at Patonga, but because I was rushing and had a time cut to get there, I didn't change. So I didn't change my shoes for another 30K. So that was 200K, and I didn't change shoes till 230. So by that time, I had more swelling and I was getting pain up in the shin. So although I was on track and I was on time for the FKT, it got to from 230K to 240K. I could barely put my foot down,
Gosh.
and and I'd done all the hard work. I'd done the 10,000 meters of climbing, and
Hmm.
I'd done all the trail. I was basically pretty much at Thornley, and I just couldn't put my foot down. I had the last little gorge trail section at can't even remember where it was now, but just on the other side of North Hornsby, and yeah, just all I spoke to the I thought my ankle was going to snap. That's how bad. So
Wow.
that's the only reason why I stopped, was because I thought I was going to do more long-term damage, because I was like running along, still moving all right, especially on the roads. I was still running, getting back to like that under 5 minute pace, but I was like smacking my foot on the asphalt, trying to just to see if I could get some movement and some to loosen it up, but it just wouldn't budge. And that's when it was just I took some Panadol, and the pain just wasn't going. And I honestly thought I was going to snap my ligaments in my ankle or something. So unfortunately, I had to make that tough call, and just before Thornley pulled out, and apparently there was a cricket game going on at Thornley, which they had organised. They were going to stop and let me run through run through the pitch, but I didn't. And my dad was waiting at Darling Harbour as well, so I didn't get to experience that finish. And I rang my dad I spoke to my dad before that and said, well, wait till we call you. Don't go down there until. But he was too excited, and he went down there anyway, and he was sitting there waiting by himself. Well, obviously called him and told him, well, and he said he was already there. I'm like, well, sorry, I'm not going to make it. But so that was a hard decision to make. I've never not finished anything. Um, but yeah, the only reason I did stop was because I thought I was going to be doing more damage, and by that stage, I was close. I was by the last sort of probably 5 to 10K. I sort of let the time go away from me, even though I'd done all the hard work. It just got a little bit too far away. It just been, yeah. that's the way it goes, unfortunately.
Yeah, extremely disappointing. It was such it still is an incredible feat of endurance. Like you said, 10,000 meters of climbing at over 240 to 50 Ks is epic. And just to touch on that, you did mention that the only reason you stopped was because you thought you might have done long-term damage. Is that kind of a filter that you have for DNFs and maybe
Yeah,
something you teach your athletes? Yeah.
pretty much. Like, yeah, if there's going to be if you're going to do long-term damage or do something serious, then yeah, then you're in all minds to pull the pin. But like I've had a couple of bad races where I've just had to walk it in. Like like UTA when it was postponed to October, and it was so really fast course. And I was just silly, and they had moved the water station, and so the water station was actually later. So I my race plan because I was going to be moving faster was I had a high dosage of tailwind, but I didn't take enough water, so I was just overdosing on sodium and etc. So I was got to about 60K and I was pregnant, trying to run up the hill and just had cramps. I could only run for a couple of minutes at a time before I had to stop again because I was just getting severe stomach cramps. But I mean, I think it was like I was at 60K and I think I was like well, 6.5, 7 hours in. So I was still up there and still moving. I was still able to finish in under 10 hours or so. So I just had to walk the last sort of got to 70K and pretty much just walked and run the last sort of 30K. But I rang my wife that when she was at Fairmont waiting for me. And I never call her during the races, so she obviously knew there was something wrong. But and I knew that I wasn't going to be doing any damage. It was just stupid and not taking on too much energy and too much sodium and not drinking enough water. So worst case scenario was like walking in and like even my clients and other guys that I know, they were all still behind me. And I still finished the race in like 10 hours 20. So and there's people doing that race in 22 hours, 16 hours. So just there's if you can get to the finish line and it's only the only thing that's caused is pride or that you haven't achieved your goal or race hasn't got planned, well do the race justice and finish it because there's a lot more people out there for a lot longer and that are, like I still got there finished and like three or four of my close mates were finished like still an hour behind me. So it's yeah, that's sort of my attitude to those
Mate,
sort of things.
thank you for sharing that. And huge kudos to you because to rewind that time limit where you said you were pregnant running up the hill.
Yeah,
I'm guessing you mean you had a distended belly because of all
yeah,
the yeah.
yeah.
But you had to let go of your goals and you were on track for your goals. But in that
Mm,
moment, your goal was disappearing rapidly and you had to
mm,
let go of it and reestablish your mindset. And you were able to do that and reframe it and set a new goal. And that's extremely mature mindset to be able to do in
mm,
the middle of the race,
mm.
especially when you would have been in contention, I'm guessing, at the time.
I was top 10
Yeah.
thereabouts. Yeah, so yeah.
Huge kudos to you. Let's talk about UTA. It does seem like a race that you frequent. What does that mean to you? And can you talk about it? Why you keep going back?
Well, it was my first sort of well, first hundred. It was my first 50K, first 100K. I think it's just everyone just and every trail run I suppose, or not everyone, but it's just from what 10 over what was it 16 years now it's been going for, and I like remember when I was just sort of getting into running and doing, and then started getting into triathlons. Like the North Face 100, and I had Matty Abel was one. He worked at Vision at Caringbah at the time, and not Caringbah, French Forest. But yeah, I remember like talking to him, and he was training for the North Face 100, and I think he got third or fourth or something that year or whatever when it was only like their first or second year, um, and I had like people like you would know the name of James Offerman. He's been around, and he was a client that I trained, and he did all those events, and so those little seeds
Hmm.
just keep getting planted and planted. But I think it's just a great weekend where so many people come together. There's so many different races. It's so like that area is. I remember like even going as a school kid, going to school on school camps and being around the Blue Mountains and just the whole area. Such a beautiful place. So I think, and I mean, my wife crewed me for the when we were first, like we'd have been probably only together for like 6 or 8 months, and she crewed me for my second 100K race, and she fell in love with it as well, and it inspired her to come back the following year to do an 11 to do the 11K. Now she's doing the 22, and now she's thinking of doing the 50K next year. But
Oh,
I think that's just all part of it as well. People start from doing the 11K to doing the 100K, and now there's an opportunity to do the miler. I think it just brings a lot of people together, a lot of different communities together, from people coming from all different places around the world or around Australia, and it's only a 2.5, 3 hour drive from Newcastle as well, and it's just such a beautiful place. And seeing just being around the sport for so long, you just see so many people that have achieved their goals and come gone into that race, setting their dreams and aspirations to achieve something big and to walk away with so many different memories. It's wonderful, from even just not myself, but seeing others that I train or that I train with, and friends, family. That it's just yeah, it just means a lot.
that's so beautiful. I love that connection. It's about building the connection with the area and the people and the community and the race. Um, Before we get to your Coast to Kosci win last year, I want to touch on a couple more races. The first is Tarawera. You've raced the 100K, oh, sorry, 102K, and you've raced a 100 mile there. Can you tell us
Mhm.
about that race and why it's special to you?
Yeah, I think well, New Zealand for one. The people are beautiful. People are more friendly than a lot of Australians, unfortunately. Like if you look at that in that, but it's just yeah, it's just I've raced a couple of triathlons in New Zealand, and I've been to New Zealand for 202K races and a miler. So I've been there a few times, but I've only ever been there for running or racing. But it's just it is just it's so different to Australia. The course, the forest, the people, and it's just such a it's not too far away from Australia, and it's just a and like we've it's been something like we've organised as a group. That like we there was probably 22 of us in our group that went over last year,
Wow.
and the year before that was probably about 20 to 15 as well. So it's just sort of more of a big family trip, I suppose, with the group and with friends and family. But it's just yeah, it's just something different to Australia, something different to UTA, and it just and it's yeah. I mean, I suppose there's a lot more money in the race from New Zealand as well. So you're getting a lot more athletes from overseas racing, and like Adidas, Terex, they have a big squad there every year. Hoka have done stuff there as well. So it's just another great place to witness some of the best trail runners in the sport racing over there as well. So, but um, it was set to be like 23 was my first mile there, and then that was the year that I eventually ended up getting into UTMB as well. So it was a good stepping stone, a good platform to step off for, knowing that one get confidence that I could do the miler, and then yeah, and just to catapult to build that block into UTMB from there. But yeah, it's just a unique place that we don't have in our backyard, but it's not too far away from.
Love it. It's another great thing. And just from a mindset perspective, never underestimate, this is for everyone, the importance that community has on your mindset, like what you've developed with your business and with your clients, and then to take over that group of people. It's really something special to share and gives it a bigger purpose than just going there for a race or a time. You mentioned
Big
sorry, you meant,
party.
yeah, big party. Yeah, exactly. Instead of a big stressful race, right?
Mm, yeah.
You mentioned that was a stepping stone to UTMB, two milers within 6 months of each other.
Mm,
Can you take us to UTMB in that same year, 2023, and the biggest race in the world, and
yeah.
talk about your experience there?
I had an extraordinary experience. It was I trained that. Obviously, I knew we've got nothing around here that's touches and anything that's over there. So I knew I had to train hard, and I probably, I mean, I trained hard for Coast to Kosci, but I think it's a sort of a slightly different training that I really needed to work on my elevation and worked really hard on trying to build as much elevation profile as I could in my training, and I had a altitude tent that I use on and off as well. Didn't use that enough, unfortunately. Just practicalities for life, but yeah, I went over there confident. Was wanting to do about 26 hours. I finished in 29 hours, which wasn't too bad, but I did get altitude sickness.
Right.
So, but I found myself right at the front of the race. Like I jumped the fence and sort of got myself right at the front of the queue just because there was so many people just packed everywhere and I didn't want to be at the back. I wanted to at least give myself a good opportunity to have a good shot. So I sort of jumped sort of at the front where they had the barriers, basically waiting just behind all the elites. But then they'd let all the male elites through, and then the females were sort of half coming through when someone broke the the barrier. So everyone just went forward. So within a couple of seconds, I was right under the start queue next to Courtney DeWalter and all the others.
Oh
So
my
it
gosh.
was had an ideal start, and then that start is what you see on TV. Like you get shivers. It's
Wow.
the music, the sound, the people, and running that first couple of Ks through the streets of Chamonix. It was an amazing thing that I will hold forever. And then, but just the course, it's brutal. Like running into that first night, I got altitude sickness coming into Italy, and I was basically the same sort of thing. Was dizzy, wanted to fall asleep, but all I had was one step forward, and I was just counting with my head. I don't know why, but I was just counting 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 with my pulse, just for pretty much 3 hours until once I got off the up to the shallow the well, I can't even think what the chalet was, but anyway, but came back down and I came good after that. But yeah, just looking at the lot like at night, just the sea of lights, and you're looking, do I have to go up there? And just the hills were just never ending. And then you sort of come into Italy, you leave Comayeur, and you're heading to Grand Col Fayette, and you're just seeing little specks of people thinking, do you have to get up there? And it's just never ending, relentless. But yeah, I just kept pushing forward. I didn't have any nutrition was fine through the whole race. Besides getting the altitude sickness, in the first night for 3 hours, that was the time that I sort of lost. Otherwise, it was good. Didn't have no cramping sort of issues. Dialed everything in. I definitely had my body strong enough. It's just the altitude that gets me, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But but yeah, but I ended up finishing with a couple of Aussies like Henrik and Luke Barrett, which people would know Luke Barrett. And yeah, so we basically ran the last sort of 30, 40K of the race together, and just randomly meeting two other Aussies and just running with them. So we all finished at the same time.
What a special
And
way
that
to
was,
finish.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it was a good special finish. They made us have a shoey at the end because I think one of the directors from UTA was there, and he was like, well, three Aussies just finished in a row. You celebrate with a shoey. So yeah, we had a shoey. I did get lost at the last a K from the finish.
Did you? A
But
K from the finish.
yeah, we sort of we worked we like when we sort of made the pact to work together. We did the last climb of La Flagère, and we started come like it's like 6 or 10K from to Chamonix, and we ran the downhill section, and we sort of got to about 3K from the finish line, and we're like, oh, we'll go our own way now. It's fairly straightforward now. We'll just push on our own, and I sort of took off and was leading and going around. Then you get to where you popped out of the trail into a road, and instead of going straight across the road, I turned and started running up this random street. Then realized about 300, I'd run probably 300, 400 meters, and before I realized, I went back and backtracked, and they got to the finish. I'm like, where did you go? But that's all right. But yeah, that was the only wrong turn I made, so that was pretty good. But yeah, it was just an incredible experience. Yeah, so yeah, definitely a race of a lifetime, and one of those things where you're watching YouTube videos in 2010 and seeing Killian birth into the trail scene, and watching all those great, and all the like Zach Miller and all those do the big American contingent that have tried to break the UTMB for many years before Jim Walmsley came along. So and then to be there yourself, it was amazing.
That is amazing. I can definitely relate to that. I want to just take you back when you're looking up and you're seeing those dotted headlamps miles up in the mountains, and your thought is, "Oh, I've got to get up there." How do you deal with that from a mindset perspective? What do you say to yourself, or what? Yeah, how do you get through that and come back to where you need to be?
Just move forward. Just if, and that's when I was struggling and I could barely keep my eyes open. I just wanted to sleep. Was just keep moving forward and
Mm.
just breaking it down and just sort of, I mean, you're just piece by piece, and that's why I was just counting, because if counting is just going to build momentum, and then I was just trying to get some sort of rhythm to just move forward, and I think that's pretty much my whole thing. Even with Coast to Kosci was move forward, just be as efficient as you can at the time, and just move forward. That was all. I just don't think about what's 2Ks ahead or looking up the top where there's a little speck. Just looking at the what's ahead of you and just keep moving forward.
Great advice, mate. Great advice. Right, I'm going to have to skip over the Elephant Trail because we're running out of time.
Yeah,
Four by
yeah.
50K finishes and the win in 100 this year. Just, I know it's probably it was a lead up event for what you've got coming up ahead, but there's another race that you've done now 5 times. Can we quickly talk about Elephant before we go to Coast to
Yeah.
Cosy?
No, elephant. It's a different race. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but I think it's a race that you need to experience and you need to do because it will break you.
Wow.
Um, I know. And yeah, I've before doing the 100 this year, I was 50 was enough for me. It's a good tough race, and I've always used the elephant as a stepping stone. So whether for UTMB, I that was pretty much I think 8 weeks from UTMB, so
Mm.
I had the elephant as a 50K, and me and my mate Steve Devlin we ended up running it together. But it's just it's relentless. Like there's like you're either going up or you're going down. There's it's steep. It's a steep up and a steep down. There's a single track. There's rocky terrain. There's a creek bed. It's just if you need to toughen up your body and toughen up your legs for something bigger, it's the ultimate race to do. Yeah, I've doing it once. I was like, oh, will I ever go back again? And I've been up there 7 times now. I've done the 50K, the 100K, and the 13K as well. I don't know if I'll do the 217, but I'll probably go back and do the 100K next year, I'd say. But it's just they do a really good job of a unique race. It's yeah, just a it's not a big company that runs it. It's just a small local business, and they do a really good job to make it a tough race, make it a little bit quirky, and but it's just I'd recommend just anyone just to try it once because it'll definitely you'll definitely get something from it, and hopefully something for the better anyway.
Yeah, good stuff. And congratulations on getting the win in
Thank
100K.
you.
Tough, very tough event.
Yeah, thank you.
I
Oh,
want to talk about, oh,
yeah,
sorry, go on.
16. No, I was going to say, well, yeah, 16 hours. It took like normally I do UTA in 10, 11 hours, and it took me 16 hours. So if that's anyone to think of, yeah, how hard it is, that's how hard it is.
Says it right there, doesn't it? Wow. Um, Coast to Cosy last year.
Mm.
You are the reigning champion of Coast to Cosy. It's only a few months away, and everyone's preparing for it. We would love to hear about your training, your nutrition, your mindset, how the race played out. I'm going to leave it open. I'd love to hear you tell the story because it was an extraordinary win, one for the ages, and I'd love to hear it from your perspective.
Yeah, well, I was confident going in. Oh, there was the unknown was the distance and how I was well, just on how I was going to feel later in the race, and making sure that my nutrition was dialed in, that I wasn't going to have any stomach issues or anything like that. Um, but yeah, there were some really good runners in the race, and I'd done my homework on those guys, and prepared myself in my training as much as I could. I do like the gym. I do hit the gym at least twice a week to make sure that I'm got my body strong to be able to handle the distance. But my training, I was pretty much doing about 130 to 160K a week, pretty much. But it's just about being consistent and just building. And that was the whole block, was just being consistent and just stacking bricks. Pretty much like what I do with most of the preps anyway. But I had like different, a lot. I know I speak to a lot of people who do Coast to Aussie, and they try and just focus on road because it is a lot of road. But I like to stay on the trails just because it's the hills and just different terrain. Just mixes it up, gets you stronger, but also just your cadence and everything, your running rhythm changes when you're on road and trail. So I try and do a bit of mix and a bit of both. But um, I I'd say I probably had probably one of the best blocks of training going into that, and had no sort of hiccups with niggles or anything like that. I think that comes down to a lot of the gym that I do that I don't generally, and that we were talking before about the control and the mindset of not chasing things and not running too fast and that sort of stuff. But yeah, we it was a nice start. It was a hot morning. You could tell it was going to be hot. So that was where the first sort of shift in the first sort of probably 30, 40 Ks, we adjusted the plan as far as pacing, getting a lot more water in, trying to cool myself down. But yeah, it was sort of around the sort of top five, top six for the first sort of 30, 40 K. I saw Rob on the first hill just take off and fly down the hill. And I think I was with Nick, and Nick Banff and I just looked at each other, well, you can have that one, and let him go. And I was sort of getting tabs on how he was traveling throughout the race, obviously being the leader. But I was just sort of keeping myself comfortable, making sure that I was there within reason to cover any moves besides Rob, who had already raced ahead. But it was that first sort of 50K where I had my first issue, where we Big Jack and climbing up Big Jack with my pacer Ben, and for some stupid reason I packed 4 bottles of Tailwind with basically, well, would have had 75 grams of carbs in each bottle, and not enough water. So it was really, really hot. So I just drank the 4 bottles of Tailwind in that hour. So again, like I mentioned before about being pregnant, I got to the top and I was pregnant again. But by doing that previously, I knew how to rectify it and get through it. So it was again about what can I do. So we shifted the whole plan of I didn't have any Tailwind for probably the next 3 hours just to let my gut settle, and I was just having water and some precision hydration chews and some Coke just to get the energy back in, just to make sure that I was sort of flushing my system out a little bit. And I was still moving all right. I was still felt comfortable, but we did have a plan for every 5K to refuel and catch up. But because it was so hot, it ended up being every 3K. So and that's just about adjusting on the fly. And I was getting hot, so we had an ice bandana, so we were placing that every 3K. They were throwing water over me every 3K just to cool my body temperature down, and that was pretty much for the whole day. That was what the plan was. Every 3K, we just sort of shift and just try and keep my body temperature down. I wore my Salomon trail shoes for the first 100K. Then we got to the road, which I changed into the New Balance Super Comp Elites. So just getting onto that freeway. And that's when I think that was where it sort of shifted as far as the race. At that stage, I didn't know, I hadn't seen Nick's crew for a while, and I hadn't really seen Matt Pilley's crew. I hadn't really seen them around it, but the two girls, Cassie and yeah, so
Ali.
and Ali, they were just pushing on the road,
Yeah.
and they just looking so fluent, and it was amazing to watch. And especially I'd spent a lot of time with Ali leading up to that in that first 100K, because just we were sort of running back and forth from each other, and just watching her run on just they were just it was just smooth and very effortless, and it was just a great experience to witness. But yeah, no, then it was pretty much the same thing. I think I was in about third or fourth at that stage, and about 120K caught up to Kai, and caught up with his crew, and then pulled away from him. And then it was Cassie, and I was running with Cassie then. And then I think coming into Jindabyne, Cassie, again, just on that flat road, just took me and overtook me into Jindabyne. And but yeah, through I was back on the tailwind then, so I was sort of having uh probably having when anywhere between 60 and 80 grams of carbs per hour at that stage. And then yeah, got into ginger and it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. That was when I first changed. I was wearing a pack. Um, I was wearing a pack all the way until ginger just purely just to get an idea of how much, to make sure I knew how much hydration I was and nutrition I was taking in, because obviously I use a lot of tailwind. But yeah, the legs were good. But then coming out of Jindabyne and that climb, when that's when both Cassie and I overtook Rob. And but yeah, seeing him, that was yeah, sight to see, and hats off to him for finishing and pushing through, because that was what he put his body through. And he, talking to him after, he had that goal for 26 hours, and he went for it and chased it, which I said to a lot of people 26 hours would win it.
Mm.
And that's what I was going for. But obviously, I shifted and adjusted due to the heat, which he stuck to his goal, and obviously that probably took a lot more out of him than expected. But yeah, so leaving Jindabyne, I got really tired and was starting to get a bit drowsy and was sort of struggling. And I think Cassie had just pulled ahead at that stage, and then I think Nicole grabbed some no-dos and gave me popped some no-dos in, and that sort of lifted me. And that's when pretty much I had that second wind and pushed through and overcame that. And that's when we sort of got to that top of that hill where I saw you and Brent, and just took from there. So my legs came back and I felt awake again, and just strove from there. Just continued through and got to Charlotte's Pass, thinking, and I was talking to you, and I was thinking, oh, okay, well, here it is. Just got to hold on now. And then not realizing Cassie and Ali had bridged back and were very, very, very close. So it was again another big shift in the mindset of still knowing that there was work to do, but I was knowing that they were pushing. I just had to dig that a little bit deeper, and I went into a different little zone where I just had to push myself. I was doubting myself at that stage because I felt tired. I was 220k into the race, and it's sort of where you get to that stone, that fork in the road where you're like, well, you can just cruise and take it easy, and yeah, you've done your best. You might still be first male, for instance, and then the women would overtake you and be the overall winners anyway, and you still get first male. But that's that argument and the battle that you have in your head, and I thank my crew for that, because they were pushing me and giving me updates again. Well, they're running, you run. So I was just kept running, and we just set little, and it's about moving forward and setting little targets. So it's like along that on the way to the summit, you've got those little bollards every 50 meters or so. So they're like, okay, run to that bollard, and then I was like, okay, run, and then I'd walk a little bit, then run. But then I started challenging myself. Okay, well, no, you can run one, let's run two, then let's run three, then let's run four. So then eventually I was just getting momentum and just kept running and pushing, and then yeah, got to the summit, touched the stones, and ran back down and saw Cassie. Saw was it Cassie? No, Ali. So it was Ali. Sorry, I saw Ali, just a couple of 100 meters behind, but thinking downhill will be fine. And then yeah, ran down. Was running down. We're just all sort of chatting a bit, and you get to the sort of bridge where there's a bit of a rise. And I said, well, when you get to the rise, you just grab some Coke and get your poles out. Use your poles for the rise, and then it's 5Ks and you're done. And we sort of got to the rise, and I sort of started to walk, turned around, and Ali was like 100 meters away, and I could just see. And then I basically chucked my poles and just bolted and took off. And I could hear Ben yelling at his son Brooklyn, you have to go, you have to go. So Brooklyn's taken off with me, and we're running along, and I'm like, how far they behind? How far they behind? And we were running at like 420, 410 pace, pretty much for
What?
that last 5K. Sort of slowed down in the last sort of K before the finish to about 440, but I was just pushing. There was just nothing that was going to stop me. And obviously, I generally am pretty good with my pacing and awareness, but But it was also just good to know that I could still do that that late in the race. But yeah, it was a bit of a panic for that last 5K, um, but yeah, I was felt good and yeah, got it done.
Such an amazing story, one that Costa Cosi has never seen the likes of. I on my watch, I thought it was under 2 minutes between you and Ali at the
Yeah,
finish.
yeah, yeah, there
Yeah.
was.
And that's extraordinary that you were able to fight off that thought that, oh, you know what, I can just rest here and still get first mail.
Mm, mm.
And I've done enough, or pull out an excuse. But kudos to you and Ali and Cassie for that incredible finish. It's such a long race to be separated by so few. Um, Epic, and congratulations. Now, for all those preparing for Costa Cosi in this year, can you share some advice? Can you share some wisdom that can help them, whether they're back of the pack, mid pack, or shooting for the win?
Oh, consistency. Just stack bricks. Don't try and chase. Look at your week, break it down, and look at what you can do within that week. Um, because you don't want to be stacking, like trying to focus on I need to run 80K on one run, or if you don't have time or you're not able to. Everyone's different in what they can handle. So just I would just plan it out and break it down to be have a consistent week and not just a big week or a big day.
Hmm.
Be think about what are we? Is it 12, 14 weeks or so? Just 13 weeks or so. Just have that outlook and break it down. Okay, well, I need to, if I want to be at 120K a week, then build that up. But if you can sort of have two longer runs in a week, that would be, I would recommend that. But don't look at having one massive run on a Sunday, for instance. Try and break it up and have, if it's a 40K on a Sunday, then it might be another 30 or 30K on a Saturday or a Friday, etc. But try and be consistent. Um, try and mix it up as well. So have run at different paces. So you want to have your easy. If you're easy, make sure it is easy. If some of your long runs, make sure they are easier as well. But yeah, throw in some hill sessions or some hilly tempos, add some speed in, hit the gym, build some strength. But don't, yeah, I just think about being consistent and laying bricks and not trying to have one big session a week, etc.
Solid advice. Thanks, Ben. That's really,
No.
really, really helpful for so
Mm,
many. And what about for the race itself, and
mm.
how to approach on race day? I guess I'd like to know from a mindset perspective.
Um, I think mindset, I suppose, just be prepared that it's going to hurt. Um, it's a long day. Be prepared mentally to have your doubts, to have your good moments, have your bad moments. But I think, yeah, just that mentally prepare of what you're going to do when you get to those tough moments. But be flexible. Be flexible to adapt and change. You're not going to, you're not, sometimes your best race might be your worst race as far as you might not mentally be, you just might not have your good day as far as your stomach might play up, your legs might not be there, but just be patient and things will change, things will adjust. Like your legs will come back, your legs will go, they'll come back, your head will go and come back. But I think just mentally be prepared for such a long day of change and adjustments.
Really, really good advice. And I have to build on that, that in the Alpine Challenge, you had to do that. You spoke
Mm,
about that 2019 Alpine Challenge. Could you just
yeah.
share about your adjustments in that, just to highlight how this can be a good example?
Yeah, like I think there was what I had well they changed the course the night before. So it was going to be instead of being 100K, it was going to be 120K. So then you have to sort of shift with everything with that as far as you drop bags and everything like that. But again, everyone has to do the same thing. And then the next morning they changed the course back to 100K because they had that many people pulling out.
Oh,
Um,
right. Yeah.
and then, but then also that adjusted your drop bags again. So yeah, you had no. But then because they changed the course, they didn't alert all the volunteers, so the aid stations weren't really set up. So I think I was leading the race for a good six. No, I took about 60K. I think Matt Crean was behind me, and he ended up winning and overtaking me in the last sort of 20, 30K. But just with all those changes, that mindset, I had to they didn't have my drop bags. They didn't have aid stations set up. So I had run out of water that many times. So again, it just mentally having to adjust and change what you can do. And I had to slow down, had to slow my pace, had gels on me, but I didn't want to have those gels because then there was no water to take on. So I was going to be for stomach digest. So it just adjusting and shifting and just doing and just that. And it was again just that move forward, get to the next aid station and just break it down. And that's the thing too with just breaking it down. Don't think of 240K. Think about the 20K. Think about those major points. But it's just unfortunately it's those things that do happen and can happen, and it's just dealing with it.
This is such good advice, Ben. Thank you. Like to mental toughness is more about resilience and adaptation than it is about stoicism and sticking with it. And you've really highlighted that so well. Thanks, mate. I'm loving this. I'm super conscious of time, but you've got something even bigger coming up, mate.
Yes.
Can you tell us why you're not going back to Coast to Kosci and what you're focusing on instead?
Yeah. So I got into Moab 240. So I'm heading over to the US in 7 weeks' time now on the 10th of October for 240 miles, not 240K. So yeah, if you had asked me this time last year, I wasn't even on my radar. I had it like after Coast to Kosci, it was quite it's how things get planted. After Coast to Kosci, had Nikita and Mitch, and they said, "Oh, wouldn't it be amazing if you did like something bigger like Moab?" And I'm like, yeah, I don't really have any ambitions to go to the US or do any big races besides Western States. But I was like, oh yeah, that'd be good. And obviously that's I've watched that race many, many times over the years that it's been on, but it's sort of never really thought that I'll do it or go. And yeah, so that sort of was planted. But I honestly thought I was going to be in Europe and do UTMB. I had 16 stones, and I'm like, oh well, yeah, I should get in with 16 stones. But then, yeah, didn't get pulled out, and then
Wow.
I was like, oh, what do I do now? And then Nicole's brother turns 40 this year, and he was talking about going to Nashville in October for his birthday. And then Nicole was talking about that, and I'm like, oh, I was like, what races are on around October? And so Moab was on. So I'm like, oh yeah, may as well put my name in the lottery and see what happens. I did not expect or did not think, and then yeah, that morning when the lottery, I got to training and Mitch had said, "Oh, have you checked?" And I went, "Oh no, I checked my email, nothing." So I'm like, "Oh no, there's nothing." And then as soon as we finished, I opened up my email and my face went white. I said the F word about more times than I've ever said, and it was just complete shock and well scared. It was yeah, it's just a massive scary thought that I'm in for Moab and to run 240 miles and to experience one of the biggest 200-mile races in America, if not the world. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
Go on.
so yeah, so yeah, then it's just been all in for that. And then in the meantime, Nicole's brother changed his trip and he's not going to America anyway. So, but the whole thing was I still take Nicole in Nashville. So Nicole still gets to go to Nashville and
Fantastic.
I get to race, and the race starts on our wedding anniversary.
Oh,
So
fantastic. Yeah.
so yeah, that couldn't have planned that perfectly. Not that you that's for me, not there though. But anyway.
This is amazing. Tell us about how you've adjusted your training for a race in the desert in Utah.
Yeah. So being winter, I've tried to do a little bit of heat. So and friend Dylan, he's joined the army, so he's in the army at the moment. Um, so he's in a puka down in Wagga. So he doesn't need his sauna. So I've borrowed his sauna. So I've been doing some heat training. I've got a heat suit, been using that on the treadmill just to get some heat in. Not as much as I'd like to, but it's just my life with work and balance is hard. And then when you want to do an easy run, that's not an easy run when running in heat suit. I brought a altitude obviously being affected in Europe, and it's actually higher in Moab than it is in UTMB, so it's
Oh,
3,000
wow.
meters above sea level. So I did buy a little elevation mask to use, which again need to use it a bit more. Just but again, when it's easy running, you don't really. It's not easy when you're running in the mask, but yeah. So just got those couple of things with heat and just get a little bit of altitude. My volumes increased. I'm probably doing an extra 20 to 30K a week from what I was doing from coast to Kosci.
Wow.
Um, Elevation is roughly the same, kind of hit about 4,000 meters a week. Climbing, incorporating some of the loops that I use for my training for coast to Kosci with this build as well, just longer. But yeah, so I think just again, just trying to keep it consistent. I use Elephant 100K as see, well, building for Coast Aussie, I use it the 50K as a bit of a stepping stone for, but being the Elephant 100K on, I knew that I was going to be a longer race as well on as far as time of feet. So just sort of implementing those things, like I've done, that was a 190K week. Then I had a down week of 110K, and then from the end of July, I've pretty much been 170 to 180K a week, and just being consistent, but trying to be aware of the body as well, and not. I did come down with a bit of a flu this week, just purely because I did a 24-hour race last weekend, which I ran through the night. So that is obviously going to take your toll in the cold. Um, but yeah, just I suppose it's again same sort of block, but just more Ks and still trying to hit the gym. I did have a bit of a glute issue, which I've only pretty much from this week sort of starting to feel that it's gone. Still got to do some rehab on it, but I just being stupid, chasing a 16-year-old on the track and running too fast when I don't need to. But it's so. But generally, that's my first sort of injury I've had in, I'd say, 5 years or so. Just being, and just that one time being stupid. But besides getting hit by cars, I'm normally pretty good. But
You got hit by
yeah,
cars. You even mentioned that one.
yeah, yeah. But no, just yeah, no, I'm really excited. There's some really good runners racing Moab. Killian and Brody that just did the Bigfoot 200. They course record for Killian again, and he also won Tahoe 200. So there's some really good runners racing, and I don't want to go over there and twiddle my thumbs and just experience. I want to be competitive. I want to push myself. So I'm going over to hopefully win podium wherever I can get to. I think that 70 hours is that magical number that we're sort of aiming for, which course records 69 middle 60 69.30 or something like that, which was Max Joloff's record last year. So yeah, just going all in, and got a good crew, and Mitch, my wife, Nicole, Tristan, my cousin from he's coming over from London, and Ben and Brooklyn will be pacing as well. So I've got a really good team, and it's just going to be excited for the scared and excited at the same time.
It's amazing. And I have to say how inspired I am when I hear you say you're going for a win or, and the podium. It just really lifts my spirit that you would go after it that well. And I know that's who you are. And it's just,
Yeah.
yeah, go
I
for
don't
it.
know how my body's going to go really yet. It's 390K, so it's furthest I've gone by, yeah, almost double. So, but it's just but yeah, I just have to go for it, I suppose. There's no other way.
There you go. There's Ben Coubrough's mindset. That's and that's how strong we've learned how strong and how you keep it so simple has been a real takeaway from this interview, mate. So thank you. There's one thing I haven't asked you. You've touched on it three times. How the importance of your strength protocol, and you're in the gym, twice a week. First of all, is that why you think you haven't had that many injuries because you're being
Um,
consistent in the gym?
yeah, I think so. I think being consistent in the gym, like obviously being at Vision
Hmm.
for many, many years, I did before I got into running, I was doing a lot of strength training, and um my body shape was completely different back then. But I think yeah, that in the background playing football as well. But yeah, I definitely think definitely have, well, from taking that from earlier into my running has definitely helped with just stronger glutes, quads, calves. I've touched wood. I don't really have any issues besides I've had a couple of tendon issues over the years with just from um, imbalance of training overload and stuff like that. But
Mm.
I think, yeah, definitely strength training, but also I think a very big component is body awareness
Right.
and knowing when how hard to push and when you should be pushing. And depending on what you're training for is how fast you need to push yourself as well. So like in that Coast to Aussie build, I'll very my limits was basically like for me was 3:30 pace. There was no need to run any faster. So when I was doing my 400-meter reps, it was sort of that 3:40 to 3:30. Nothing. There was no need to run anything stupid, like which is how I got injured recently. Was running under 3-minute pace, which is just silly. And
Right.
but yeah, I think just being aware and knowing your body of what you can handle and as far as and being smart of how you build it up as well by not spiking up your training and then again that's consistency because you just stacking bricks on the load as well.
Really solid
Yeah,
advice. Really solid. And even just saying there's no point in running faster than that pace. I mean, that just again shows maturity, but also knowing your plan leading up to something. I did need to ask specific protocol. Can you give us a quick protocol on what to do, what you do in the gym, or what you'd recommend
yeah.
somebody do?
It's sort of split. I try and do one heavier session a week, where it will be sort of like 5, 6 reps max of deadlifts, squats, lunges, hip thrusters. Do a lot of isometric, so single leg exercises as well. Within that, so do a lot of different band exercises for your glute meds, hip flexors, and then yeah, just a whole multiple different ways of doing different squats. So you're not just you're hitting your abductors, the main bellies of your quads and hamstrings exercises as far as eccentric loading and yeah, making sure you're just working them in different ways. Yeah, that's pretty much. It's not nothing fancy, nothing. It's all just fairly simple, but it's just making sure you're you're building the areas, especially focused on running, that you're looking at the whole mechanics of what you're doing. And I see a physio as well that helps me out with different things. And I see an osteo as well. Um, but yeah, just nothing too fancy, but just making sure that you're just building the right the um, motor patterns and stuff like that as well, and just keeping strong and not yeah it's nothing too fancy, but it's just doing it's just but it's being consistent as well.
Yeah. Ben, that just shows your experience in both personal training and running training, plus the elite level that you're at is how much knowledge you've got. Your clients are lucky to have you. Mate, we're lucky to have you today. Thanks so much for your
Thank
time.
you.
Is there anything else you wanted to say before we do say goodbye?
No, I think pretty much it. But no, well, but no, just thank you to everyone out there. Thank you for all everyone sort of like it. Everyone around the community, I suppose. It's always nice to chat with different people and see people at different races and events, or chat with them online and um, get different comments. And I suppose just everyone that does sort of like stuff or comment stuff, it does mean a lot, and it does again help me push myself and try and inspire those. So, thank you for everyone that does what they do as well.
Unreal. Unreal. And where can people follow
And
you? Where's the best place?
I'm probably on Instagram, I suppose. So it's just Benny Coops Ultra Runner. So that's yeah, pretty much Instagram would be the best. But otherwise, I've got a website which is just Straight Limits Coaching. Um, or you can find me on Facebook, just my name and all Stroke Elements Coaching on Instagram and Facebook as well.
Okay.
But yeah, it's I mean, and having like been working at Foot Motion as well, which has been they've been really supportive and helpful as well. And so thanks to everyone at Foot Motion again too, which allows me to run and they help me out and it's I've got a good team at the store which run yeah the Maitland store which will soon have Warners Bay, a new store opened up as well. So that's going to keep me more busy, which opens up in October. So
Wow.
right when I get back from
Right.
overseas. So but no, and being in the in the shoe game only just sort of helps with like meeting like-minded people and meeting runners that come in and wanting advice on shoes and training and stuff like that, which is, yeah, it's great.
Oh, you'd be the best guy to give advice. Ben, thanks so much. All the best for Moab,
Right.
for your build and for your race. We'll be following you. I'll put
Yeah.
those links in the show notes so people can follow you.
Yeah.
And once again, mate, thank you
Uh,
so much for your time. It's been such a pleasure, and you've dropped some brilliant advice and bombs for us to take away from. Thank you.
thank you very much for having me on your wonderful podcast. It's been a great listening to your podcast over the years as well. So thank you.
Thanks, mate.